The Wisdom of Paul Brunton. Meditation, Essential Advice. Quest Video Series 1, Video Number 7, presented by the Paul Brunton Philosophic Foundation. You must dive deep to find the pearl. Rumi. In your innermost being, you are already divine. Hence, no interior training can give you what you already possess. But a suitable training can help to give you the consciousness of what you possess. No practical system can develop a soul for you, for it is already there. But an adequate system can lead you to the awareness of it. The primary objective of meditation is to deepen consciousness, to reach the egoless self. It is then possible to switch its identification to the overself. Only in the deep silence may we hear the voice of the soul. The treasure trove of the real self is within us, but the veil hiding it can be lifted only when the mind is still. I have no complicated system to formulate. I propose only to teach a simple technique for becoming aware of the highest in ourselves. No method of meditation can be easy in itself, because the practice connotes thought control, and there are few things in this world that are harder to achieve. Yet a method of meditation can, however, be simple. The inquiry into the true self is the simplest system of meditation I know, and therefore the most suited to the busy person of the present age. The daily practice of mental quiet must be done as regularly as eating. Habit rules our lives, and the best habit you can make is that of meditation. I would not only emphasize but overemphasize the astonishing value and urgent necessity of this habit. You will find in time that the daily period of mental quiet will become a looked-for joy instead of a disciplinary duty, as it might seem at first, and you will allow nothing to interfere with it. The mastery of mind is the mastery of self. Are you weak in concentration? Then by a little practice every day, you can become stronger. Physical stillness is the first gateway to mental stillness. A comfortable and convenient posture of the body rests the mind and enables one to begin the task of withdrawing within oneself. Go to the same quiet room every day. Occupy the same chair or sit on the same bed each time. The body learns to respond automatically until it becomes non-resistant to the invading influence of the soul. I suggest that morning be chosen, but it is quite possible that circumstances exist which debar this time. In that case, the next best time is sunset, for then the mind can return more quickly to its interior quiet. If the early evening is out of the question, then an alternative time would be just before retiring to rest at night. Failing these 3 times, you must then avail yourself of whatever half hour you can steal from the daily schedule. You may begin with 10 minutes, but you will try to extend the period to a half hour as soon as you feel that it can be done without undue strain. A student seeks advice from Anthony Damiani, a prominent teacher of Paul Brunton's ideas.
I told Anthony that I find it hard to concentrate on only one thing. He said, when you sit down to meditate, or you don't even have to sit down to meditate, there's an almost incessant chattering going on. Thought follows upon thought endlessly. And you say to yourself, I've had enough of this. I don't want to listen to this anymore. You become very determined that every time you give heed to an idea or thought or memory, whatever comes into your mind, then you're expressing faith in the lower self and your belief in your ego. The important thing here is to bring it down to the very practical level where every instant you look at your mind and you keep trying to eliminate the thoughts that come to it.
The restlessness of the mind is the general discovery of all people who take up the practice of meditation. This discovery is confirmed by every early effort and leads at first to some disheartenment. The first fumbling efforts leave a sense of failure and fatigue. You understand then that only a small fraction of your thoughts are your own, the rest being but an undisciplined, rebellious mob. If, however, you accept the fact that the task undertaken is a serious and difficult one, yet still perfectly possible and worthwhile, and bravely attempt to carry on with the exercise without slackening, there will one day be a reward, when a delightful lull in the tumult of the mind will arise and its outward-turned bent will be broken through. In this development, there are 3 stages. First, the long, monotonous, tiring fight against the wandering tendencies of the intellect. If this stage, which is inwardly directed upon the overself itself, is successfully achieved, then the second stage will be to prolong this concentrative power. Also, the second phase will not come into being unless you cease the thinking about it and start to feel for its presence, drawing the energy down to the heart from the head and loving the presence as soon as it is felt. The third is the effortless triumph of habitual practice, in which the practice is resumed with pleasure and discontinued with reluctance. We may arrive at such an expertness that we will be able to pass into it at will and with ease. If you dwell in the overself's spiritual presence during meditation, and let the spiritual presence dwell in you during other activities, a time will surely come when you have the unforgettable experience of mystical ecstasy. However, the meditating mystic must learn not to tarry overlong in the realm of joyous spiritual emotionalism, but rather to transcend it. For there is a higher realm yet to be attained, none other than the utter peace which passes understanding, a realm of wide calm and supreme tranquility. If it be asked why these states are not sustained outside the peak hours of meditation, the answer lies concealed within the question itself. Meditation alone is not enough. The fulfillment of all the conditions regarding meditation exercise will advance us in our vocation as a mystic, but will not be sufficient by itself. What is still required of us is that we should become philosophic mystics, should unfold the possibilities of our whole psyche and not only our intuitive ones. The effort to attain spiritual awareness is not only a matter of the acquisition of concentration, it is also a matter affecting every side of our life. If the quest were only a technical process and its problems only problems in meditational technique, it would be easy enough. But it is much more than that, for it also involves the emotions, the desires, the will, and even an unknown factor, the overself's grace. The practice of meditation without the cultivation of ethical safeguards can lead to self-deception. Therefore, an integral and total quest must be followed. Paul Brunton, 1898 to 1981, a best-selling British author of a dozen books, spent much of his early life researching the original sacred teachings of Western and Eastern spiritual traditions. He traveled the world to discover and communicate with Christian, Kabbalistic, Vedantic, Buddhist, Taoist, indigenous, and Sufi masters. Blending the richness of his own spiritual experience and inquiry with these ancient and contemporary teachings, he developed a philosophy and path of practice that suits life in the 21st century, one that expresses the greatest wisdom and love available to humankind. Regardless of how it is named, we each have a divine soul, an overself or higher self, that is with us here and now, waiting to be realized. Paul Brunton's writings are a source of deep spiritual guidance for all those interested in living a divinely inspired life. Anthony Damiani, 1922 to 1984, was a prominent teacher of Paul Brunton's ideas and founder of the Wisdom's Goldenrod Center for Philosophic Studies. Inspired to penetrate into and understand the depths of traditional wisdom, he taught classes on the major philosophies as well as the teachings of Paul Brunton. His dedicated students compiled the 16 volumes of Paul Brunton's posthumous writings, titled The Notebooks of Paul Brunton, available from www.larsonpublications.com. Excerpts from Instructions for Spiritual Living, The Secret Path, The Quest of the Overself, and Standing in Your Own Way by Anthony Damiani. When completed, the Paul Brunton Quest Series 1 and 2 will contain the following topics. Please subscribe to the Paul Brunton Philosophic Foundation channel.